We are currently standing behind the cemetery. The reason we're back here is because behind the cemetery is hiding a piece of history. History that significantly involved people, freight, and coal. If you'd like to learn what used to be here and to see what's still existing today, well, you know what to do. Just come along with me. May not look like much at the moment, but I'm actually standing on part of the history right here. There's more of it off to your side, more of it behind you. Want to find out what used to exist here? Let's learn about it right now. So before we explore in present day, let's go back in time. We're starting off here with 1939. We're going to zoom in, and right here is the cemetery area, which I stated something is hiding behind. Well, as you can see, there was a multitude of lines back here back in the day. You can see rail cars here, a bunch of different lines. Up here, there's something going on. And then this line here, with this bridge going across, is actually here today. That's present day Norfolk Southern. At least 2 trains a day do run across that. But tracks went underneath that bridge on the land. And as we come down south, we can see some infrastructure here. Looks like some water towers, some filling stations, some other structures. And then the lines themselves actually curve away, heading in towards Center City. So they rode along the river for a period of time and then headed in towards downtown. So we have a lot going on here just for a short stretch of land, only a few hundred yards, but this area is definitely going to be a big focus of us later on once we do get back on the ground. But let's jump ahead to 1950. So 1950, we can see right here, tracks are coming in or away from the river, which we already know. The infrastructure is still here, the towers, the tanks, the buildings, and the multiple rails coming up. And now we can see not one, but 2 train bridges here back in the day. So 2 lines crossed over a gap, which is a source of water here, went under the present day Norfolk Southern train bridge, which I believe is called the Gauntlet Bridge. And right here is something of importance too, which actually helps signify what used to run on one of these lines. So keep that area in mind. Here we are, 1991. Now this image is flipped around. It's showing south. So here's the present day Gauntlet Bridge for Norfolk Southern. Right here, we can clearly see this is a power substation. So that does play, like I said, a part in what used to run here. And here's not one, but 2 bridges clearly visible over this gap right here, which is a creek flowing into the river. But at this point, looks like the rails are gone. And we can see the area has been transformed a bit. And down here, where the infrastructure was, has been cleared out as well. Jumping over to Google Earth, 1992 image, we do have the cemetery right here. Bridges crossed here. That substation's here, and present day Norfolk Southern. Come down further, we can see more of the areas being developed. And this area here where all the infrastructure was, the water tanks and filling stations and buildings, they're all completely gone. And there's just some items there. I don't know what they are exactly, but the towers, the tanks themselves are completely gone. Jump ahead to 2005, we could see it's a pretty barren lot, but there are some foundations here. As we go back up towards the cemetery, the lines themselves was basically just nothing more than a trail today, walking or hiking trail. But the bridges are still there, as is the power substation. Jump ahead to 2021, the power substation is completely gone, just an empty pad site. Foliage is really grown in, so it's hard to see, but the bridges are still there. You can see a faint trail coming behind the cemetery, and coming back over here, well, nature has reclaimed this area. As we bring up to present day, this looks like pretty much how it would be in the warmer months, really grown in and green, but there should still be some foundations there. Now, what was running here? Well, I'm glad you asked. Here we are on the railguide site. We're looking at the same cemetery, and as we click on Current Classic, we have some lines showing up. So 2 different lines operated here. We have both the LV, Lehigh Valley, and Lackawanna and Wyoming Valley. So one is indicated with the white solid line, the other one is a dotted black line. So you can see they both crossed over the bridge here, or I should say a pair of bridges, went underneath Norfolk Southern Sunbury line, and continued, and then hit some interchanges and switches and branches, went different directions. And then coming back down south, you can see there's a few different lines here, a few different areas being serviced. And if you look here at the Water Street Parkade, there was a spur line coming right to this building or property, and it was being serviced by the LV Lehigh Valley. And as we already know, it curved away from the river, headed in towards Center City. But what about that dotted line of the Lackawanna and Wyoming Valley? The dotted black line basically comes and stops right around here. I think that right here officially stops. And we know that's just past the infrastructure area where the tanks were, water towers, and other buildings. So that line looks like it terminates right here, just past or just before West North Street. Now, the Lackawanna and Wyoming Valley Railroad, we've talked about multiple times on my channel, but we know it more commonly as the Laurel Line Railroad. It's a Pennsylvania third rail electric interurban streetcar line which operated commuter train service from 1903 to 1952 and freight service up until 1976. The main line that it ran on ran from Scranton to Wilkes-Barre, and we can see it pretty much terminates right here in Wilkes-Barre. We've also talked about the Lehigh Valley Railroad, which was a railroad in the northeastern United States, built predominantly to haul anthracite coal from the coal region in northeastern Pennsylvania to major consumer markets in Philadelphia, New York City, and elsewhere. And the headquarters for Lehigh Valley were located in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, not far from Bethlehem Steel, and the dates of operation were from 1846 till 1976. Jumping back to Rail Guide, as we zoom out, you can see a lot of train traffic going on back in the day. We have multiple different lines of New York, Susquehanna, and Western, Lehigh Valley. We have CNJ. We had DLNW, D&H, all working in the vicinity of each other, but our primary focus, though, is right over here. And if you couldn't already guess, that power substation, which was located right here, most likely was to help power the Laurel Line streetcar service. So once we get back on the ground, we're going to be starting right here behind the cemetery. We're going to focus on the two bridges here. We'll go all the way up north to the Gauntlet Bridge, show you that, show you where the power substation used to be, the creek flowing down here as to why those bridges are in place. Then we'll turn around, head south, and come all the way down to where these infrastructure areas used to be, the water tanks, water towers, and buildings, see if we can find any foundations. And most likely, there's nothing left of a station here, which would have been for the Laurel Line itself, just past the bridge here. So this would be our furthest point, but we already know there was a spur line that did come somewhere over here, and I will point out that garage once around location as well. It's pretty much directly across the street from all this infrastructure for the LV. Now that we know what used to exist so long ago, let's get back on site and see what's still existing here in 2025. Okay, we're back on location, directly behind the Hollenbach Cemetery. And we have a really loud bird trying to get our attention. I hear you. Looks like this area has been worked a little bit. Got some discarded leaf piles here and tree trunks. So as we mentioned, we're going to head north first. And directly ahead of us is some of what we came to find and explore. Do you see it? It's hiding in plain sight. There's an access gate to the cemetery. And right here, we got two things going on. Directly in front of us, you may or may not be able to make it out. That's actually a bridge with modern guardrails next to it. But right there is another bridge. So we know there's two bridges here, one for the LV, and we're going to call the other one for the Laurel Line. As far as my understanding, the Laurel Line went on that one, LV went on this one. As far as I know, I could be incorrect on that. That's not really super important, but what is though is what's left of it today. So there is a fully intact bridge deck here that we can walk across. There's no rails here, but it does give us a view of some more things that used to exist. And I'm actually just noticing it right now. There was another bridge here next to us. Oh, look at that area down there. How cool looking is that? It's like a miniature spillway right there. Water comes around the bend, spills over that pipe, I believe, or concrete lip, and makes a nice little pool area. And I see some bridge wreckage down there in the water. There's some steel beams. There's a support column. There's beams going across right there. Nothing here on this side. It's actually deteriorated right there behind the brush. So it looks like stone and concrete abutments, steel beams. We have wooden decking here. Rails are gone, completely removed, as well as the hardware. And then we have this bridge here, which presumed to be for the Laurel line. So we have two bridges here for the LV, this one that we're standing on and that one there. And then that looks like it's at least two, I'm guessing probably 2 tracks wide, maybe for a to and return of the LV, I'm sorry, of the Laurel line. I could be incorrect about that, but I don't know if it went out and back on the same track or if it looped around and had like its own looping track. Pretty far down too. I did bring my measuring device, so once we get to the bottom, I could get some measurements of the distance between the walls and the height to the bridge decking. Oh, look what I just found. Is that a rail? No, that's not a rail. I got excited for a moment. That's either a steel beam or a steel plate going right across. All we see is the exposed lip there. The power substation was right there. I'll show you what it looks like today. It's basically nothing, but since we're here, we'll check it out. There's a fence here, but it doesn't really block anything. And we have a path right down to the water there, so we'll use that to our advantage. Let's see if we get a little bit closer to this. That's actually some pretty deep water. I mean, not super deep, but I can see the bottom, but it's over 6 feet deep. I have to watch my step here. One wrong step, you're going right off into that water. Ugh. Okay, it's about as far as I can go. I'm not walking out there, obviously, but yeah, just wide enough for a set of rails. Would have been ties going across it. One center column, and then the other abutment over there, which was pretty much non-existent. So the rail level would have been right around here where we're looking on top of this mounted material. And then there's a embankment behind it, which is eroded away. And would have continued, obviously, straight through that direction under the Gauntlet Bridge. And just for the sake of it, we'll toss the rock down there. Now standing here too gives us another view of the bridge we walked across. So we could see steel beams. One clear difference though is that this has primarily a stone support column. That one is concrete sitting on top of stone. Now back in the days of operation, this guardrail wouldn't be here. I'm guessing the township or somebody added this just for safety. Kept the bridge intact for access. It's even tied off here with some cable ties. Braided wire cable. But for the most part, besides that hole down there, looks like it's holding up quite well. So this bridge is elevated compared to the other ones. So we had to climb up a small embankment here, and here's the other abutment. So obviously earth would be up higher. Even with that, this is exposed where normally it wouldn't be. It would have came right across, keeping grade with that right there, going straight through under that bridge. Besides some graffiti, I don't see any build dates. And we have a long drop down to the bottom. I think I'm gonna scale this right here, try to get you a topside view. All right, watch your step. This might be foolish, I don't know. Oh, slid a little bit. Okay, we're up here. Make sure I'm not exposing myself here. So let's get on the beam. No, that's not going anywhere. And this is what it looks like on top of the bridge. No decking at all. I know some individuals would cross that. I'm not. I'm perfectly comfortable staying right here. Definitely double tracked. We already knew that. There are some ties over here. So right there, a few existing ties. No hardware. Pretty rotted conditions. But at least the bridge is still here. It's something, right? Well, taking the views. This is as far as I'm going. Now to get back down might be harder going down than what's coming up. This moss is a little bit slippery here, so last thing I want to do is just slide and not stop. Actually, I'm going to hop off here, I think. Okay. Back on solid ground. Before we continue on to the Gauntlet Bridge and the substation, let's go to the other side of this, see what that's like. Maybe there's some more access, different views. And I'm not going to go underneath each gap here because, well, we're going to go down to the surface of the water and get the ultimate view down there. So more to come, but one thing at a time. I don't want to jump around too much, so get up on the other side of that abutment and hopefully gives us some more access. Anybody lose a sneaker? Pretty much identical to the other side, exposed concrete. Now, the only thing I'm considering, because I said on the other side that the earth would be up to the top of this, that this wouldn't be exposed. I still think that's the case. There's a small chance though that maybe a few wooden or steel beams came off to kind of gradually bring it down to grade. That's a possibility on both sides. But for the most part, usually you see earth or land right up even with the top. Now over here offers us some fantastic views of the Gauntlet Bridge, and it's much windier over here. It's coming off the river there. And I did film a train going across this once, and I shared it on my Facebook page, so if you want to find that or see what it's like, you can check it out over there. Maybe we'll get lucky and catch one today though. So some of those beams are right in the water. This one though, excuse me, according to what I see here, the only way up top is basically scaling this ledge here. I don't know if it's even worth it. I think I'll maybe scale it right to that stopping point right there and just get you some views from there. It's like somebody's enjoying their Keystone Light. All right, let's do this together. We're gonna get up here safely. Oh boy, it's a little sketch. Okay, yeah, it's as far as I'm going. I technically could go further, but I just don't feel comfortable doing so. So by the looks of it, compared to the bridge that we saw that we crossed, well, maybe not that one, but the one that's partially intact, that one seems like it's the oldest. It's primarily made out of stone. This is primarily out of concrete as far as the supports and abutments. They all have steel beams, obviously, but I think this is a newer bridge, comparatively speaking to the first one that's partially left. The one we walked over with the guardrails, I think is newer than that one as well. maybe around the same time frame as this, even though that one is partially stone and concrete. So what do you think though? Do you think the earth was level with this and the tracks came off and what we're looking at is just brought down excavated area? Or do you think like a small bridge came off both ends, gradually bringing it down to grade? I'm torn, I don't know. But if you have any ideas, we'd love to hear it. Oh, I spy something, do you see it? Right there, there's a rail sticking out of the muck down there. So most likely when they were dismantling the rails up here, that probably fell off and it's been there ever since. Sometimes underwater, today it's exposed. You know, funny thing is there's a familiar smell over here. And it's a smell that you normally smell if you go underground. It's like a musty, mildewy smell. So what do you want to do next? Do you want to do the substation, which would be really brief, or the Gauntlet? And then we have down below. We're gonna save that for last out of those three. I think we'll just go in order as how we're walking. So we'll do substation just to show you what it's like today. We already know what it used to look like. And then we'll go up to the Gauntlet Bridge because there, part of the supports are actually in a parking lot. It's kind of neat to see. Watch out for that barbed wire. It'll get you every time. That's what they had surrounding this facility here. And as I said, it's just an empty pad now. There's a concrete base there, something was there, whether structural support or a building. And then we know there is the regular electrical apparatus right here. And although I don't have solid confirmation, it is more than a 50% chance that the substation was put here to provide power for the Laurel line. It's close proximity to it. And once that went out of service decades ago, this went out of service, they eventually removed it. Otherwise, I think it would still be here in operation. But I do hear the water on the other side here, so let's take a gander over the edge, see what it looks like. Well, directly ahead of us, we have water spewing out from beneath the cemetery. Probably just natural runoff system. And then down here, we have a beautiful area. I'm thinking that line that we see there, I think that's a pipe system. I think it's concrete encasing a pipe, like protection. That's what it looks like. I see between the gaps, there's a round circular metal piece. I'm thinking the pipe is underneath the concrete. Look at this water though. Absolutely gorgeous. We've got some small rapids up there. And this water flows right down over that little lip down there, which I want to get down to, and then spills out into the Susquehanna. This is like a nice wading area or even a swimming or tubing area. You could just kind of float here. It's several feet deep. Not deep enough to jump from here, but looks like it'd be maybe chest height, if not deeper. And I can zoom in, you can see pretty clear down there. It's like a great snorkeling area. May have to return in the summer. Check this spot out. Easy enough to get to. As that one song goes, they paved over paradise and put up a parking lot. But this is pretty fascinating. This support area for the Norfolk Southern line of the Gauntlet Bridge is sunken in its original footings, and they paved right around it. And now it's more or less a garbage pit. Right next to a medical facility. I know some people do come here and watch trains. It's easy enough access. And look at all the plates too. Looks like they use them almost like for levelers, like shims right there. There's at least 5 or 6 of them. Rusty, but still holding up quite well. There's the manway decking right there. It's obviously his private property. I would never try to go up there on it. And you never know when the trains are coming because at least 2 trains a day do cross this between Binghamton and Enola, Norfolk Southern. And if you're hungry while you're here, there's a McDonald's right there. As we see in the rail guide site, the amount of train activity back here is pretty astonishing. Lines going in all different directions, competitors running nearby each other, both sides of the river. So today, one lone line right there, at least right here. But where we're walking, tracks came right through here of both LV and Laurel line. And where I'm standing too, I'm pretty much level grade with that bridge. We already talked about possible situation with a little ramp or exposure of the earth, but right now where I'm standing here, right by this gate, I'm pretty much level with the grade where the tracks would have been. Got that on camera. All right, down here at the water level, going to offer some great views of some of these bridges here. Aside from that little slide out, made it down pretty good. I do want to try to get down. I may not be able to get down the other side. Looks really, really dicey with the deterioration of the wall there. Stepping in the wrong area could dislodge something and have it fall on my ankle or something. So I think this is probably as low as we're gonna get. I really do want to get underneath the bridge there. It's not gonna happen from here, or I think today. I think if anything, I may return in the warmer months. We'll get wet and go under there. If you guys wanted to see me do that, let me know down in the comment section. But right here though, we could see 3 lines. All this one right in front of us here. Worst condition. The new roadway with the guardrail behind it, pretty good condition actually. And then the elevated line closest to the river were 2 lines there. So 1, 2, 4 tracks came through here, as far as we know, based on the evidence here. So it's a good amount of train traffic. And it's 2 different companies, LV and the Laurel line. 100%, this is a encased pipe here, covered in concrete. Don't know where it's going, but that's the same one that we saw basically right here that comes around the edge over there that we looked down from the top. So this is a pipe system, and it's today forming a little tiny spillway. Gorgeous pool of water here. Right there, it's less than a foot deep. Over here, it's a 3-4 feet deep. It's even deeper. So we know there's some bridge wreckage there. The steel beams that used to be up there are now down in the water, as well as a lot of the structural support of the abutment wall. It's all laying there and also in the water. But yeah, I definitely would like to return in the warmer months. Now, typically the Susquehanna is not a clean water system, but this water is basically flowing out into the Susquehanna. So this water looks clean and clear. Not that I'm going to drink it or anything, but as far as getting into it, I don't really have as much concern of this water as I do going into Susquehanna. But all I would do though is go as far as that rock area there, maybe to the edge of the abutment wall, and we'll be able to have some views. And with the 360 camera, you get some pretty awesome shots. I think we accomplished our goals for this immediate area. We got as high as we could and as low as we could safely within my comfort zone. But this area is definitely going to require a future investigation involving water. I definitely want to snorkel the water, and I want to get over there and measure those spans and the height of the bridge. So now we need to get back up on top, make sure this is not going to blow over. Head back because, as I pointed out earlier, there's some history hiding right off the side of the rail bed. And then we're going to go further all the way back to what I call the infrastructure area, where there's the old tanks, water towers, buildings there, and to show you where that little spur line curved off into what is today modern day parking garage. So I'm gonna pack up, get back up on top, and see you somewhere up there. Now earlier I did a clip standing here saying there's history behind me, behind you guys, and off to the side. Well, off to the side is this. There's a concrete wall here. And it's basically dividing the 2 lines because this is another rail bed right here. It's elevated, which lines up with the elevated bridges that we checked out. We presume that to be the Laurel line bed, So it's coming down at a small grade and eventually meets up with the same grade level as this, as the presumed to be LV. So this is basically like a division wall, as far as I know. Now, nearly this entire time we've been pretty close to the cemetery, but up here the cemetery kind of curves away from us, where this line pretty much stays where we are. So up here is a big flattened out area. And I think that's what we saw on the rail guide app or site, that there was multiple lines in this area of the LV. And I think this was like a small yard area, maybe a staging area, storage area, something like that. But it's wide enough, clear enough for multiple lines. And let's see if we can walk over to it and see what's left of it today. So just for orientation, right side would be Laurel Line, LV, and over here, possibly the yard or storage area. Cemetery is farther away now. We have this open cleared spot where you do see some concrete and stone work. Yeah, that looks interesting. Let's get down there and check that out. There's a barrel down here. That might be a stool. Yeah, barrel stool. And we do have drainage down here from beneath the cemetery. Primarily filled up. Toolbox here. Craftsman variety. It's actually kind of neat. Still holding up pretty well. That looks like old style cinder block and concrete on top. What is this? Oh, this is probably from the cemetery, from someone's gravesite. It's a rock wall right there behind the cemetery, and it's getting really windy. It looks like someone was living back here at one time. And when we get up closer, I'm going to show you two areas where there's actually active homeless camps along the rail line. There's actually two of them, decently large grouping of tents and other things there, so I'll show you that once we get closer. There's a bigger pipe right there. And it goes in, filled up about 4 or 5 feet back. This wall itself is pretty old. May or may not have been built by the railroad or by the cemetery. We know the cemetery's back here for at least the 1930s, probably much earlier than that. I don't know the information offhand, although I have done videos. But that wall is pretty neat. Oh, here's something over here. We did find something after all. You see that? That is a base or support for something from the railroad. And there's 2 steel beams that were cut that are anchored to it. Could have been a signal, could have been part of a signal bridge, signal tower, could have been anything, could have been a light post. So that's here, pretty much level grade with the active, not the active line, the former line up there, the main line, if we want to call it that. And just to show you size comparison with me, not only with this wall, but the rock ledge up there above me. So it's a pretty big open site here, vertically and horizontally. By the way, since I did mention earlier that this rail service had something to do with the transportation of coal, well, something right up here used to exist that I documented years ago, and it's no longer there. It was part of the Dorrance fan house. There was a structure too, with some big fans in there for providing ventilation down to the mines. So that used to exist right up there on that hillside. They removed it, and I believe the fans are now at the Lansford number 9 mine. If you want to see that video, I'll have a link down below. Now up ahead, just beyond this brush line here, there's at least a half dozen, maybe 10 tents. And then further up, there's another grouping of tents. I'm not gonna talk when we go by them. I wanna be respectful, don't wanna disturb them, but I do wanna show you what it's like back here if you were to come back here for yourself. I walked by them twice already. The one person did say hello to me. Others just didn't even realize I was there. But we'll continue exploring further up beyond these two sites. Made it past both homeless sites. The second one, or the one closest to where we are now, you may have noticed there's a concrete retention wall there. May have been something there at one time, maybe not, but now we're walking in a parking lot here across from, I believe there's a prison here. We noticed that on the old maps, not the older maps, the newer maps being constructed over the years. So the rails would have continued through here. I think maybe there was a line down lower right here, which could be the lower line. And obviously there's a parking lot here, so it was graded, leveled, excavated out, not original. And actually this might be an area where the old infrastructure used to be. I think I need to get down there. All right, so we were walking up there. I said there may have been another line down here. I think this was a rail bed at one time, because right here we have a tie. So that's evidence. Most likely this was a lower elevated line, most likely for the lower line. What spotted my attention though, or grabbed my attention, was this concrete wall here. Why is this here? This might be the site of the infrastructure with the water towers, water tanks, and a few buildings. And look at this pretty awesome tree. Just branching out here. Is there anything worth checking out? Well, I guess we'll find out. Oh, shit. Oh boy, I just took a really hard fall. I know I'm covered in mud. More importantly, the camera snapped off of the mount here. I think it's still working. Hopefully not blurry or anything. That was a hard hit. This camera is not rugged by any means. Boy, I thought for a second I broke my camera. All right, let me just check it because there's some mud on it. SD card's covered in mud, but I fell right down there. I know for a fact my backside is all mud right now. That was kind of foolish of me. I knew that was going to happen. I learned the hard way. I got extremely lucky. I went down really hard. I think the camera may have caught part of it. I didn't get hurt. I just slammed down hard, and the camera itself slammed off the ground. I thought for certain the camera was going to be broken. As far as I know, it's just dirty. There's some mud in some crevices that I need to clean out once I get home, but as far as I know, it's recording. SD card's still there. Still pick up the mic. So that was a close one. This is a camera that's more or less obsolete now because of the tariffs with DJI. This camera is hard to get, and if you do get it, the prices are almost double or triple what it used to be when it first came out. So I definitely don't want to have to replace this anytime soon. Anyways, with that out of the way, I basically came down here for nothing because this is just a retention wall to keep the ground level. I'll show you what is down here, and then we'll head back up on top. I'm looking, it's actually like a whirlpool down here. The river direction's going that way. There's a chunk of ice coming down this way. It's going the reverse direction. It's like caught in a washing machine whirlpool there. So yeah, nothing more than just a concrete retention wall. I thought maybe something was down here. There's not. So I'm thinking this is the landscape of what I've been dubbing the infrastructure area. Let's get up on top and find out for certain. I just noticed, I think someone's living down here. They got a blanket. So up on top here, You can see those gas lines. It's like they're capped off with concrete or something. I just checked on Google Maps with my position on, and we're definitely either in or approaching the area of where everything was here, right next to the rails. There's a lot of evidence. Everyone who's living back here is probably out for the day, trying to get some meals or do some work. It's a mess up here though, unfortunately, a lot of garbage. That one homeless site though, with the retention wall, they actually have some trash cans there, keeping it pretty neat and tidy. Nothing significant, but here's something. I don't know why I thought that was gonna move. Bricks and concrete there. I think from what we saw, once these structures were removed, there were a few footers or foundations, probably for the water tanks. Maybe up closer to where the buildings were. We know there's a few tanks back here and a couple buildings up here closer to the bridge. Yeah, there's someone's living site right there. Four-wheeler driving across the bridge. Why not? That's humming and buzzing. We don't want to mess with that. This is fenced off. I'm wondering if that... I think it was back here, right? As far as I know, the tanks and water towers were back here. But this area... Maybe up here though. I don't know. Maybe this was just extra land, but that retention wall was there for something, to keep the level flat and stable. Let's see if we could maybe find a way to get a better view up ahead. Well, I'm finding some old spotlights on poles showing in this yard area. When I call it yard area, it's fenced off. This is where these structures most likely would have been. There's actually a few light posts around here, so I'm thinking most likely this is the area here that I kept dubbing the infrastructure area. As to why it's fenced off, that I don't know. It does have me a bit perplexed. I thought we could get in there. It's just a barren area though. And I don't see anything resembling foundations or old infrastructure. Waiting for him to go by. That was pretty loud. So I now know why this area is fenced in, and the funny thing is it's actually open, but I don't think we should go inside because I'm not sure if you can hear that. That's natural gas going through those pipes. You can hear from here, but it is wide open, and directly across from it is the present day parking garage. From what we saw, according to the rail guide site, there was a spur coming off the tracks right here, coming to this property. What was here back then, I really don't know. It could have been a business, could have been anything, but there was a spur line coming here. But the lines themselves, as we already know, continued across and then going past City Hall, curving off, going into Center City. And Laurel Line stopped somewhere on the other side. Probably was a station there back in the day. So this is as far as we're going. There's nothing left to see beyond here. But I was hoping to investigate this area because, again, we know there was things back here. And 99% sure they were servicing the railroad with those water tanks, water towers. Could have been filling stations, could have been maintenance shops, could have been a number of things for the railroad. Maybe part of it was related to the Laurel Line as well, but I think it's better safe than sorry to go in there and just observe from here. I wouldn't be surprised though, if we were to get in there, that we could see some footers or foundations or concrete pads, but that's all we would see. Everything has been gone for a number of years. I was curious about this area once I got home because I wasn't certain where everything was. but confirming with this 1950 image, everything that did exist was within that fenced-in area. But the fenced-in area didn't exist back then. That retention wall that we saw where I fell down is visible here, but that area is basically unused land. It's just empty land, and that wall was built just to support the land and the structures nearby. So this was used within the fenced-in area. Then we jump ahead to 1999. This property was used for something else, maybe for natural gas facility or business. Then by 2005, everything's cleared out. 2012, landscape's pretty barren, reclaimed. 2023, hardly anything is visible except for those lines that we hear the gas running through today. So anything that used to exist from the old railroad days would be completely gone. If we did find any foundations or footers or anything like that, it would have been from probably that natural gas business. Well, today was a dirty one and an adventurous one. I've been to this area numerous times, especially to the cemetery. I've done a few videos there and never knew all this existed behind it. And to know that not only the Lehigh Valley was here, but the Laurel Line. I covered the Laurel Line extensively closer to Scranton and Pittston. Never came down here tracking it in Wilkes-Barre and just kind of stumbled upon it doing the research for this area. And maybe you'll be able to see I'm a bit dirty. May have to retire these jeans. I think we covered a lot. We got to see some great bridge remnants. We got to see an awesome area down beneath the bridges that I definitely want to return to. Hopefully you want me to as well. And if you have any insight as what we talked about earlier with those bridge abutments, if there was earth right next to them, or if there was grades coming off with small little bridges getting to the grade itself, let me know. And here comes that motorbike again, so let him pass by. He's running a little two-stroke engine, and then we'll finish up. Well, that's one way to get around town. Lastly, I hope the research helps paint a better picture as to what used to exist. We could talk about it all day long, but when we have visuals and charts on the Railguide app and then coming here on site, it really puts it all together to help you understand what used to exist. And to know that things still exist today, decades later, to me that's awesome. It's just history holding on and hiding in plain sight right behind the cemetery and right across from a prison. So anyways, I need to get cleaned up and get on with the rest of my day. So thanks so much for watching. Thanks for coming along. And until next time, I'll see you in the next video.